That's, again, part of this idea of informing, inspiring, and transforming. The best way to get transformation is to bring people directly to the Middle East to engage with these moderates and to engage with these individuals themselves. So we had a group of 15 headed to the Middle East, and over half of them Principia students, although it was open to any student all across the country, both undergraduate and graduate. And we had 3 months of intense, incredible study and learning adventure in Israel, the West Bank, and Jordan. And it was focused on the themes of peace and sustainability. And this was in partnership with CEL, which is the Center for Ecological Living and Learning. Interestingly enough, that's headed by 2 Prin alum as well. And we just forged an incredible connection about the synergy around these issues of peace and sustainability and how they converge in the Middle East. And so I and my husband, Forrest Wilder, his first foray into the Middle East, led this amazing trip. And what we really did was expose the students to the full range of issues and perspectives on the Middle East. So this is,
they're not just reading the newspaper.
They're not just reading the newspaper. And honestly, I think they got a little bit of whiplash, and I think we put them through the ringer. But for example, one day we spent at a settlement and just hearing from the Jewish settlers living on what Palestinians consider their land.
This is what this euphemism settlement means.
Right,
yes.
Exactly. And so hearing from them, how this is the land that God gave them, and this is Israel, their promised land, and what it means to them to be living in Judea and Samaria, and just really understanding from their perspective what's going on. Then the very next day, we were observing a protest by Palestinians against that same settlement. So you can imagine, we're inside the barbed wire with the settlers one day. The next day, we're outside the barbed wire with the Palestinians protesting against that same settlement. Another example, we were down in Hebron, which is the most volatile city in the West Bank. And again, we spent a day with our Palestinian guides learning about, from their perspective, how the old city is shut down and how they have no economic opportunities, how settlers have taken over the downtown, how there have been all of these human rights violations, how there was a massacre in 1994 by an American Jew, and just on and on and on. And then the very next day, we spent with the Jews inside the old city, those settlers, and got a tour from them, their perspective, and went through the old synagogue and went through the tomb of the patriarchs, where it's believed Abraham and Sarah and Jacob and Isaac are all buried. And so it was just 2 radically different perspectives. And the students would come away from these encounters and say, there is absolutely no way that this will ever be solved. It's hopeless. I can't play a role. This is, what are we ever going to do about this? It's never going to be resolved. And then we would bring them to the moderates, to the middle ground, to the people that, even though they live amidst those extremes, they live in that context. They also suffer the injustices of, Israeli occupation. And then for Israelis, they also bear the brunt of terrorist attacks by Palestinians and have to worry about their security. And so they are people who, they're not hiding from these realities, and yet somehow they have forged a different path and a new model that works, and they are able to bridge those divides. And so then the students would go, oh, wow, okay, maybe there is hope. Maybe I should, follow in their footsteps. Maybe I too can bring understanding and bring peace. And so it was just such a full and rich educational experience. And every single one of them came back transformed and totally engaged on these issues, and it's been just amazing to see the fruitage. Yes. And so in answer to your question, we definitely we are planning on doing it each year. So we'll have another group leaving in January. It's January through March, and again open to Principia students or any students from around the country.
And about the fruitage, what do you have specific examples of things that have happened or transformations that you could tell us about, or what the students...
Yeah, there's an amazing video that a Principia student put together, a slideshow, about the trip, and it ranges from, one of the individuals saying that they became a better Christian man from having viewed those trials and tribulations and had to pray his way through them. Others, one person acknowledged to me that she had never read the news before, didn't even know where these places were on the map when she went on this trip, could care less about international affairs, and just deemed it totally irrelevant to her life. She is now an avid news junkie, does presentations on these issues, is speaking up in class about, is the resident expert on Middle East issues, and is fired up and is telling all of her friends to start paying attention as well. And then another few they've done their own projects on the ground. One went back to build a biogas digester for a village with both Israelis and Palestinians and raised the money to do so. Others have given presentations and talks and formed groups back here in the U.S. So they've all done, they all had to do what's called an action plan and have been implementing those back here in the U.S.